what we're teaching in SYCB is to get systems and processes in place. And when those are in place, your business will run so much more efficiently and much better. And part of that is you also have a much better idea of how long does the pre-construction process take? How long does the build process take? Well, once you get that dialed in and you're getting work like crazy, now you can say to them, okay, this is going to be a 6-month job and the first 3 weeks are going to be in pre-construction. The next availability I have for you is December of this year.
How do I get my people to follow a process? How do I get someone on my team to change? How can I become a better coach, a better leader, a better delegator to the people around me? Have you ever asked any of those questions? Well, that's some of what we're going to cover in this episode of the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd Dawalt, spelled D-A-W-A-L-T. I'm your host. And here at Construction Leading Edge, we're all about helping construction business owners have more freedom, more impact, and more wealth by systematizing your construction business. In this episode, we have a roundtable discussion with Leyah Hostetter, Monish Khadye, and myself, all from the Construction Leading Edge team, where we pull back the curtain and we share some of the coaching tools and techniques that we found to be most successful that we use in our coaching practice with the construction business owners we worked with. And we've worked with over 300 construction business owners in the past few years. So here are the few topics we talk about. There are some tactics that you can use to get your team on board with a process or system. This is a very common problem that we hear. How do I get my people to follow a process? How do I get them to fill out daily logs? How do I get them to do their freaking job? That's what we talk about. We talk about the concept of having an even flow in your business and what that means. Monish talks about his somewhat unconventional approach of making bets with clients. You may want to try this one. Not financial bets, but it's a good way to get people to have skin in the game. We talk about what crafting your customer experience journey can do for you. A few simple time management and productivity hacks that you can use right off the shelf. We also talk about the first step you should take when you're rolling out some new initiative. And nobody does this. And it's the reason that most initiatives fizzle or flop or fail because this step gets skipped. We also discuss some ways that you can tailor your coaching or your leadership to somebody's individual needs, some of the success stories that we've seen when construction owners put these strategies to work, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, let's get into our discussion. And this is Monish Khadye, Leyah Hostetter, and myself. Hope you enjoy. All right, Construction Leading Edge team, Leyah Hostetter, Director of Customer Success. How are you today?
Hello, I'm well, thank you.
Awesome. Monish Khadye, all the way from Australia, implementation coach extraordinaire. How's it going in the future?
Yeah, it's good. We've got winter here, so opposite to you guys, but other than that, life's good.
Nice. So here's what we're going to talk about. We are going to share some of our insider secrets. As a group, we've helped hundreds of construction business owners. We've coached hundreds of construction business owners. We know how they think. We know what they believe to be true. We've helped them work through those things. So we're going to share some tips and tricks, some coaching insider secrets, and it'll give you a taste of what we do, some of the results that our clients get, and most importantly, you may pick up some tips that you can use with your clients and with your team as well. So here's the first question. The first question is, can you share a specific tool or technique that you've used with a client recently that had a significant impact on their business? What was it? How did it work? And what were the results? Leyah.
Yeah, so many of you have heard me talk about the customer experience quite a bit. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that. So this is something I've shared with a lot of my clients, is considering what do you want your customer experience and the customer journey to look like. And I've been able to share with them some different visuals and things that other clients have created that they've allowed me to get to share with current clients. And really what that looks like is, what is the journey that you want to take your client on? And as part of that journey, how are you going to set expectations with them along the way, which is a benefit for you and for your client? And as I bring this up to many business owners and many of our clients, it's quite surprising how few of them have actually thought about this. And when I share this with them, it's like a light bulb moment where they consider, oh my gosh, this could really shift things for my clients, for us internally, to map that out, to be able to share with a client, hey, when you work with us, this is what it's going to look like. And I'm going to be setting these expectations with you along the way. That clear communication and consistent communication benefits everybody. And it has benefited a lot of my clients. Many of them have taken that and created their journeys immediately from that.
Yeah, one of our clients that we've been working with for a few years, custom home builder, he actually created it's like a coffee table book. That was his vision for it. And he created a customer guidebook that outlines the customer journey. And it's actually bound book that is nice enough to put on the coffee table. And so what sort of results have people seen from creating their customer experience journey, documenting?
It kind of goes hand in hand with having a solid process, right? Because I call this front of stage and behind the scenes. We have to have our behind the scenes in order before we start to appear in front of stage or share some of these things with our clients. So that's kind of a little thing that I want to mention ahead of time. But once that's in place, you now become the premier builder or the premier remodeler or the premier contractor, because folks come to you and you've got your stuff together. You can show them very clearly, hey, this is what it's like to work with us. This is the process. This is how long it's going to take. And we're going to get you a really solid estimate before we ever start work. And people appreciate that. It makes you look a lot more credible. You now become the premier or the desired builder or remodeler of choice. And that puts you at a competitive advantage in a positive way. It's benefit for everyone all the way around.
Yeah, especially when most of the competitors are sort of flying by the seat of their pants, making it up as they go along.
Giving you an estimate on a Post-it note.
Yeah. Being able to say, look, this is how we do it. This is our documented process. Here you go. This is what you get when you work with us. And actually, we just had one of our Systematize Your Construction Business or SYCB group calls an hour ago. And one of our clients said he took his documented pre-construction process, his customer journey, to a new client, and she could not have been happier. She was blown away by seeing that documented process. Yep. Good stuff. Monish, what about you? What's a specific tool or technique that you've used with one of our clients that had a significant impact?
So I'm a nerd when it comes to numbers that have dollar signs in front of them. It just makes sense, especially when it comes to the business. And I've been coaching our clients on the tool called Revenue Maximizer, which is what you put together, Todd. And it's the point of the Revenue Maximizer is to help our clients kind of align all of their actions and their team's actions in the business with the numbers that the business needs to produce. And often the numbers kind of get forgotten about or get lost because, you're not tracking them as efficiently and following through with them. And our clients end up making decisions that aren't necessarily that great financially for the business. And those decisions could also include saying yes to particular clients or particular jobs, not knowing exactly what your net profit ends up being out of that. And the Revenue Maximizer has been a great tool to get people to have that alignment with the financial side of the business. And surprisingly, it's also helped guys realize that they've got a bookkeeper, they've got a CPA, they've got QuickBooks and everything, but the financial information within QuickBooks is not accurate. So it's leading them to think they're either making a good amount of money when they're actually not, or they're not making money when they actually might be, which potentially ends up, with them paying more taxes and stuff like that. It also helps them realize what the true cost of an employee is or an asset or whatever in the business compared to, what they've been charging. And so it helps them dial in their margins and markups a lot better as well. So personally, I think there's been a lot of wins with that because it's directly translated to people improving their net profit and, actually focusing on the actions that make net profit instead of just working too much and not seeing a return at the end of it.
You've some of your clients in the CEO Alliance specifically have seen some great financial results. And what I heard at our last couple of live meetups, specifically the last live meetup in San Diego, people talked about the revenue maximizer. They would say, when I embraced the revenue maximizer, it did this. And then when I started using this, and it seems like it's part of their rhythm now. What have been, are there any examples of like results people have seen from doing that? How has it helped them?
It's helped. So one of our clients in particular, he was stuck doing estimates and bidding on jobs that were really too small for the way his business was set up. But he was doing it, or he felt that he needed to do it just to keep his employees busy because, he wanted to keep them in their jobs or whatever. And over time, it turned into him staying up till midnight doing these estimates, on jobs that he really shouldn't be doing anyway to begin with, just so his guys were getting paid. And going through the revenue maximizer, I showed him that that's an endless cycle. If he wants to be stuck in there, he's going to be stuck in there for a very long time and potentially go bankrupt if he doesn't change the way his business is set up to take on profitable work where he's not working up till midnight every night. And unfortunately, that meant he had to lay off 5 staff. And it was quite a hard decision for him and his wife, who's also an owner in the business, because they had built these relationships with their team. But he laid off 5 staff, and within 2 months, his business was back in the black. He's now, because he's not working for so long on jobs that don't make sense to take on, he's now started building relationships with architects and clients for $1 million plus jobs instead of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 jobs. And he's finding out he can take a lot more time off, and he's making more money doing less by just having his team set up a lot better. And he's still got a few people on board, but they're in the right seats. So the numbers have helped him make that decision and get out of his own way. So,
yeah, I've heard that from a few other people as they started using the revenue maximizer. It became apparent that they couldn't do enough small jobs to make it work. It just didn't work. And that they achieved the right mix of jobs, the right job size for them so that they could create the gross profit that they need to hit their net profit targets. I think that's a common mistake. I think people believe, well, $1 of revenue is $1 of revenue, and I just need to sell whatever I can. And it's not. It's managing $1 million worth of $1 million project is very different than managing $1 million worth of $50,000 projects. Much more overhead intensive. And some people might like that, but personally, I don't. And a lot of our clients have elevated their game up to bigger contract amounts as a result. So here's my answer to this question. A tool that I've seen that's helped is, I'll start with the problem. One of the problems people have when they delegate a task, like a complicated task, let's say it's more of an initiative. If somebody wants to roll out, let's say, a piece of software, or they have some initiative, or maybe they want to hire somebody, they're not really clear on what they want. So I came up with this tool that I call creating performance specifications for an initiative. So what this looks like is it starts with getting really clear on what's the purpose. So if you're thinking about, like, I need to hire somebody, I need to invest in software, I need to implement some kind of process in my business, there are a handful of questions you can answer up front that will help you get clarity on this, and especially if you're going to delegate this to somebody on your team. Number one, what's the purpose? What do you want to accomplish? Number two, What's the importance? What difference will this make? What impact will this have? And then number 3, what's the ideal outcome? What does winning look like? What will we have accomplished when this project is completed? Number 4, which is really important, what are the success criteria? What are the specific results that must be true for this project to be a success? And there are a few other questions. But when you clearly articulate the performance specifications, or some people would call it a project charter, when you clearly articulate what winning looks like, number 1, you get really clear on what you want. And number 2, it makes it much simpler to delegate to somebody, because you do the work up front to get it out of your head, what you want, and you put it into a document. Then you can delegate it to somebody. So I've shared that with a few of our clients. And while it is quite a bit more work on the front end, they end up with a lot better results. Okay, next question. Let's talk about some simple tools. What are some simple hacks and tools that you guys have found to be successful for time management or productivity? These could be habits, tools, apps, something like that. Maybe they're things you've used. Maybe they're things that you've heard from our clients. I'll go first. There are a couple that I've found. One is really simple. It's a focus timer. And it has a clock on it, but if I rotate it to 60 minutes, it goes to 60 minutes. If I rotate it to 5 minutes, and if there's a task I need to get done and I think it can get done in 15 minutes, I rotate my timer to 15 minutes and I work on that furiously for 15 minutes without distractions. And it's pretty incredible what I can get done in 15 or 60 minutes of focus time. The other thing that's helped me a lot is I deleted the email app from my phone. So I can't check email on my phone, which saves me a lot of time, a lot of wasted time. What about you, Monish? Any focus or productivity hacks that you found to be successful?
Well, I think the deleting email thing, I'm glad that you've done it, Todd, because I'm pretty sure you gave me that advice about 3 years ago now when you were working with me.
I did.
So it's about time that you took your own medicine.
Well, I've deleted it, and then I've put it back on, and then I'll delete it. So I have this love-hate relationship with email. It's actually trending more toward a hate relationship with email. So we're not in a good place. I'm not in a good place with email right now, so I've deleted it.
Yeah. Look, there are a lot of productivity tools that, especially with AI now, I know it's a buzzword and everything, but there's a lot of stuff that we've been going through in the CEO lines to get rid of very specific things that my clients are doing. But predominantly what I focus on and what most of our clients want is to work less or not at all, if possible, right? So one of the really useful things, and it might be inappropriate to call it a tool, but as a human resource, is to get a virtual assistant. And you can get a virtual assistant depending on what task you want that person to do. It's about $10 an hour, right? And it's usually someone from overseas, from a different country, but you can find someone quite qualified or overqualified to do that role compared to a local hire. And it's helped my clients basically delegate much more to a very affordable resource instead of trying to do more and more work themselves, try harder to do better, to be more productive. And instead, it's about them getting better at delegating. And, that's what I would recommend if you want to get out of your own way.
Yeah, absolutely. Eliminate and then delegate. And then if you can, automate. Yeah, great stuff. Leyah, how about you? What sort of productivity or time management or focus tools or hacks would you recommend?
This is going to kind of back things up to first thing in the morning. There's a lot of different tools and tactics about how you start off your day. There's the 5 a.m. club. There's the miracle morning. I'm sure everyone has heard a lot of these different things. But some of the most successful people really own the first part of the day. And that's something that I have seen with a lot of my clients who do really well. And even in my own personal life, I have started waking up even earlier because those quiet morning hours are really, I love them. They're probably my favorite part of the day, where I can just have time to myself and do some things that set my day off on the right foot and set me up for success. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. And every one of us is so different that I think everyone's morning routine really needs to fit them. But what I have found for me is I like to start my day off with some silence and prayer and meditation. That's usually how I start my day off. Then I like to read. Then I like to write. And then I move my body. So that might be taking my dog for a walk, might be going to the gym, might be yoga, whatever it is. I take the first hour of my day, hour and a half, and I do some things for myself that will set myself up for a successful day. And one of the things I also do, I know this might sound hokey to people, but I do a lot of affirmations in the mirror. I look myself in the eye and I talk to myself in positive language. And then I also envision how I want my day to go and how I want to show up in my day. And that really does kick my day off on a positive note and helps the day go a lot better. And when I have some of those moments in the day that aren't so great, I am often reminded, well, what did I set this day up to be like? How did I choose that I wanted to respond in moments like this? And that's just been really helpful for me, not only to be more productive, but just to show up as the human that I want to show up as. And I think that's really important for every single person.
You mentioned you do some writing. What do you write, if you don't mind my asking?
No, not at all. I'm a pretty big journal writer, so I like to write pretty frequently, just stuff that's going on in my life. I also have a goal to write a book, and I've had that goal for a while. And finally had this light bulb moment where I thought, how am I ever going to write a book if I'm not actually writing? So I am now trying every day to sit down and I set a timer. There's the timer for 10 minutes and I just write whatever's on my mind. And I imagine that eventually that will hone my writing skills to be able to write a book one day, as well as may become some of the content for a book that I want to write. So that's what I'm doing right now with my writing.
Nice. Monish, what about you? Do you have a morning routine?
I used to, but now I do coaching for the last couple of years, and I usually wake up, make myself a cup of coffee, and I start my Zoom calls because being on the other end of the planet, I start these calls at about 5 a.m. in the morning. So no, I don't have one anymore. But this is a great way to start the day, let me tell you. When people turn up on these calls and tell you things are going well, and let's talk about this particular thing, I think I've realized that I really, really enjoy problem solving. And so I can't really think of a better way to start the day. But before that, I used to journal, and do all those sort of things. So it's definitely I highly recommend using that tool to start your day.
Yeah, same here. There's one key part of my morning that's crucial, and it's gratitude. Writing the things I'm grateful for. If I don't do that for a few days, after a few days, I'm like, man, what is wrong with me? I am just grouchy. I don't feel good. I don't want to be around people. Like, I haven't done my gratitude for a few days. So it's crucial for me. I am not a naturally positive person, so I really have to be intentional about that.
Can I just add to that? If journaling doesn't work for everyone, or meditation doesn't work for everyone, or whatever, what I found worked for me personally, if you can't get time away in the morning, is to have around lunchtime or at some point during the day to take time out just to go for a walk. And when you go for a walk, you can either listen to, affirmations just on Spotify or YouTube or whatever that specifically relate to gratitude, just so it shifts your mindset to be more grateful and more positive, instead of going for a walk and just thinking about whatever problem you've got to deal with when you go back. And it'll really help you refocus and kind of attack your day from a different perspective instead of just constantly being under stress. And obviously walking is a healthy exercise. So, you're multitasking.
Definitely. Yeah. This living in the gain has been such a powerful concept that we've learned and we've been sharing with everybody we work with over the past 6 or 8 months, I suppose, which comes out of the book. Well, there's a book called The Gap and the Gain, and 10X is easier than 2X, but very powerful. All right, let's shift gears. Can you describe, Leyah, you can take the first swing at this one. Can you describe a recent success story where some particular tactic or strategy you recommended led to some measurable improvements for a client? What was that? And then what was the outcome? What do you got?
Yeah, we talk a lot on here about not charging for or getting paid for estimates. Excuse me, I said that opposite. It is one of the bonus master classes in the SYCB program. And we probably have about half of our clients who come into the program who do not currently charge for estimates. And so some of them will dive right into that master class. And we have a client who is in SYCB now. They're probably rounding out the program the last couple of weeks. And they dove right into that and started charging for estimates. And in just a very short time, maybe 6 weeks, they already have 20 paid estimates, which is pretty significant. That's huge and a really good problem to have. But what this has created for them is they have so much work now. They're kind of scrambling. They're trying to figure out how to really manage through this. And the advice that I'm giving to them is this concept of even flow. Now, it really does need to kind of come in layers. What we're teaching in SYCB is to get systems and processes in place. And when those are in place, your business will run so much more efficiently and much better. And part of that is you also have a much better idea of how long does the pre-construction process take? How long does the build process take? Well, once you get that dialed in and you're getting work like crazy, now you can say to them, okay, this is going to be a 6-month job and the first 3 weeks are going to be in pre-construction. The next availability I have for you is December of this year. Now, if you have all of that laid out and it's laid out well, you can easily have clients that will wait for you because you're now the premier builder, right? So there are a few pieces that come into play with this. But the idea is that you want to consider, how can I have even flow? So how can I have even flow of work consistently through the year? We have some some clients who are a bit limited with their locations and seasons. So how can they ensure that they have consistent work through the year? How can you, no matter where you're at, ensure that you have consistent work through the year? It's really dialing in those processes and then considering, okay, so then that would mean what? I can start this type of job every 6 weeks. I can start this type of job every 3 months. Whatever it is for you, every business is a little bit different, but it's starting to look at the bigger picture, right? So it's zooming out and it's forward thinking and it's considering what would make sense and how can I structure my business? How can I plug people in to where I have consistent business for myself and my workforce? So that was a win, right? They've got all of this work now. And then kind of the next step to that is let's get those systems and processes in place so you can evenly spread out this work. So you're not super overwhelmed with everything all at once.
Yeah. Even flow. And I think there's a mindset there that has to be embraced. I think a lot of people feel like they're in the passenger seat of their business. Like we just take whatever work comes along. And then if we have a lot of work, we're just along for the ride and it's going to be crazy for a while. And if we don't have much work, what can you do? But to really think about even flow, that means, well, I'm going to get in the driver's seat of this thing and I'm going to decide how much work I want. And I'm going to go sell that work. And I'm going to tell customers when we're going to start. And I'm going to drive the train. And I think, having that even flow is something that everybody wants because nobody likes the roller coaster effect. And it requires a little bit different mindset. Would you agree with that, Leyah? Do you see people taking on a different mindset to be able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side of that, what we'll often hear from clients is, well, I had to hurry to go out and sell a lot of work so I could have the work to do. And now I'm so bombarded with the work that I'm doing and I don't have any new work coming in. And so it does require you to kind of take that step back and to think in a different way, as you're saying, shifting your mindset in a different way to where you can take the driver's seat. You can plan out what your work is going to look like. And then, this also is a nod to the revenue maximizer, right? You're able to look at every month and say, okay, how much work do I need to sell this month? And for what amount? So I can continue that throughout my business. So yes, absolutely does require a mindset shift, but it is one that is really valuable for a business owner.
Hey guys, Todd here. If you own a custom home building or remodeling business, let me ask you a few questions. First, how often do you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about project details, financial issues, or something else about your business and you can't go back to sleep? Are you spending more than 10 hours a week working in the business, wearing multiple hats, putting out fires, and you feel like you can't work on your business as much as you want? Number 3, do you have enough documented systems and processes, or is it all in your head? Number 4, how good is your handoff of projects from the office to the field? Are you getting hammered by the just enough to start trap, doing just enough to start? And then lastly, do you feel stuck? Do you feel like you need to grow, but you're scared to, and you don't know how to do it? Maybe it feels like you need to hire, but you're afraid to make a mistake, and you're worried you can't afford to hire somebody. Well, if any of that resonates with you, you're not alone. And if you want to make your business a source of more freedom and a source of less stress, and to systematize your construction business, and our team here at Construction Leading Edge has helped over 300 builders and remodelers systematize their business, and we can help you too. The first step is to schedule a call with my team by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply. That's constructionleadingedge.com/APPLY, or you can send a text to this number, 877-755-2410, with the word apply. That's 877-755-2410. Just text the word apply and we'll get back to you. Now, let's get back to our episode. I'm reminded of a success story that you just recorded and shared with us in the last week or so. We have a client who builds custom homes in Colorado, in ski towns. And he's been in business for 30 years, 25, 30 years. And he realized that there was a giant missing part of his process. There was this hole in his process called pre-construction. And he had no pre-construction process at all. And he was dealing with the problems, the chaos that came with that, all these profit bleeds and chaotic closings for houses. And he realized, I just need to focus on pre-construction. And by doing that, now he's able to, he's hired someone and put them in place to be focused on pre-construction. That's freed up his time. Now he has time to focus on training somebody to take over operations for him. So I think for a lot of people who we work with, they realize, I need a pre-construction. I need to focus on pre-construction. I need a process for that. I need somebody who's accountable for that. And that's really a game changer for a lot of people. Monish, what about you? Any recent success stories where a particular tactic you recommended led to some improvements for a client?
I think it's two parts. It's not just a tactic I recommend, but something that I've been using as well. And it's about basically trying to shatter some of our clients' belief systems. And I don't mean like religious or political. I don't really get involved down that side. But, negative belief systems specifically within the business that they've convinced themselves of. And I've actually had this feedback from one of our clients who I ended up meeting here in person, who told me that there were several times where I made him feel uncomfortable because I challenged his beliefs, and he was not used to people challenging him. He was used to people just saying, yep, sure, that works, and going ahead with it. And he said, when I started challenging his beliefs, it forced him to then challenge his team's beliefs and change, specific things in the business that weren't working too well. A lot of it was, unfortunately, owing to, I guess, lessons learned over the years, and then the fears that those lessons have taught him, right? So it was because, hey, I did this, and we talk about a lot of our clients talk about the GFC, like it only happened yesterday. Like, oh yeah, in 2008, this happened, and I want to make sure that I don't do anything that's going to cause that to happen again. And that fear gets our clients to kind of restrict themselves and stay in this place where they're ignoring opportunities or, ignoring making the right moves, even though the probability of success is way higher than the probability of failure. And a recent success was probably in October last year. We had one of our clients who has worked with us for, I think, 2 years now, but he's had tremendous growth in his business. And he was at this point where now he was afraid to keep growing because he was concerned that, again, what happens if there's a financial crisis and things fall apart and this and that. And to the point where and I think you recorded a podcast episode with him recently, but he was not accustomed to the level of success that he was now seeing. And that was triggering some new fears. And he was afraid to continue hiring people just in case something else were to go wrong. And we went through, again, the revenue maximizer, and I basically showed him how he didn't have a choice but to hire someone because his business was at operational capacity. And if he doesn't continue down that path, he's going to end up outworking himself or overworking himself and his team potentially. And he disagreed with me. And so I placed a bet with him, and I said, all right, within 3 months, you're going to end up hiring 2, maybe 3 people, and you're going to see that need yourself, and you end up doing it. And lo and behold, I won that bet 3 months later. And he begrudgingly agreed that I was right to begin with, but the point of the bet was to help him see through his own mental barrier. And once he saw through it, now he's in a much better place, and he had got a certain level of growth, and now it's gone to a completely new level because he's completely outside of that, operating out of that fear. And he's now doing the same thing with his team, and he's challenging them.
I think you've made bets with a couple of your clients, if I recall. One involved karaoke at one of our live meetups, right? And and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've won. You're like batting 1,000. You've won all of your bets with clients, so that's an interesting tactic.
I think. Look, what I've got an unfair advantage because I'm a carpenter. I was a commercial project manager. I had my own business. My wife's a designer. I've been in all these positions that all of our clients are in, right? I've said all these things that I know aren't true. I've believed certain things that now I know aren't true. So when someone says something to me, it's easy for me to challenge them on that. But then I tend to try and tap into our competitive nature as general contractors or remodels, or what you want to call it, and say, all right, this is, let's not have a disagreement. Let's turn this into a fun thing, and let's just see how this pans out and see who's right at the end. And usually, the bets include karaoke and stuff. We're not betting money or, it's usually something to do with our dignity. And it ends up being a fun thing. And, no one, the karaoke thing was specifically related to the live event that we just did a couple months ago in San Diego. And it was kind of like a group challenge where, here's what we all think we're going to achieve in the next quarter. And whoever doesn't has to sing a song at karaoke that the rest of the group chooses for that person. Now, because it was a competition, everyone actually smashed their goals. But because there was this fun banter going around for 3 months, we all ended up going to karaoke and sang anyway. because, it was just a fun thing to do. And I should probably make that note that when I'm challenging clients, making them feel uncomfortable, it's not to the point where they never want to speak to me again. That's not how we're doing things. We're making sure that, applying enough pressure where people can actually turn that into something positive for themselves. I'm not here just criticizing people and telling them they're hopeless. And that they're
you do a great job of pushing people to the point where they're just outside their comfort zone, just to the point where they get results and it works. And that's really where they need to be, because no growth happens inside the comfort zone. I want to talk a little bit about something you touched on. Go ahead. What were you going to say? And then we'll come back.
I was going to say, I think I'm able to do that. Like I said, I've been in all those positions, but I'm able to do these things. I believe there's a lot of power in vulnerability. And so when I discuss these things with my clients, I share my experiences and, very specifically how I felt and whatever negative things that I went through at that time as well. And so they know that, I have good intentions, and I'm not just someone that's pushing them for the sake of pushing them. I'm pushing them because I know what they're capable of, because we've worked for so long. It therefore becomes a more of a friendly nature of doing these things.
Yeah. So here's the next question that we'll segue right into. The question is, what is an underrated or lesser known tactic that you found to be surprisingly effective when coaching people? Maybe it's even something that's counterintuitive. And what I heard you say was getting people to challenge their beliefs and really identify their fears, right? This is something we've seen over and over in live meetups. We start talking about what's the real problem here, and it becomes apparent that there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of wrong beliefs that are holding people back.
The real problem is you.
That's, in a nutshell, the good news is, and the bad news is, the problem is you. So let's drill into that a little bit. I'm curious how you guys would answer this question. What are some of the biggest limiting beliefs that are holding construction business owners, and entrepreneurs back? Is it a fear? What do they believe to be true that's not true? Leyah, what do you think?
Oh, often I think we hear clients think they have to do it all themselves, or they have to be leading everything, or they have to be involved in everything. I mean, we just had that happen with a client on our call right before this. He's very aware that he needs to start delegating. And yet when we look at his list of things that need to be done, his name's on almost everything on there. And this is not too uncommon with a lot of our clients. I think sometimes their fear is the impetus of that, maybe a lack of trust, wondering whether or not their team is going to be able to do it the way that they want them to do it. But that's not always exactly what needs to be done, right? But that is one of the big ones that I think we often see with our clients, is this shifting their mindset to be able to let go and to empower and to trust those around them. It goes back to that book, The Who, Not How, right? Really finding the right who's and then trusting them that they can do what it is that they need them to do.
Yeah, so a few things I heard you say in there, these beliefs, and these are very common. I have to do everything. Part of that is I have to be the best, fill in the blank. I'm the only one who can do this. Can't trust people. The underlying belief that keeps a lot of people held back is new employees are a risk. What if I hire them and they become a competitor? What if I hire them and they make a mistake? What if they fill in the blank? Basically, new employees are a risk. Change is bad. We fear change. Letting go of control is bad. These are very common fears and beliefs. And if you believe you have to do it all, if you have to be the best, you can't trust people, new employees are a risk, letting go of control is bad, you are stuck. You're going to stay stuck. Monish, what about you? What are some other limiting beliefs that you've run into that people need to identify and unravel so they can get unstuck?
I think kind of similar on that track, but how it amazes me how much people undervalue their own time, because we get a lot of people coming on, and I should say the type of people that come in and sign on with us to go through our programs are genuinely people that are always probably looking to improve themselves, improve their businesses, right? So statistically, these people are likely better than the majority of the contractors that are in their local area. Okay, because does that make sense? Like if someone's constantly trying to improve themselves, they're probably going to be better than the majority of, they're in a high percentile of whatever. So when these people come on here and they say, "Oh, I don't think I can charge for an estimate because I don't think anyone's going to pay for it," what they're not realizing is they're saying, "I don't value my time enough, and no one else is going to do that either." Right? But what then happens over the course of a couple of weeks is people are pleasantly surprised. They're like, "Oh yeah, I called up this client or this architect even, and I said, this is our process now for pre-construction, and this is how much it costs." And they signed up. And they go, "I will never go back to doing a free estimate again." And this happens every single time, right? Like if I had $1 for every time someone said, "No one's going to pay me for pre-construction," I'd be very rich. But the point being, the underlying factor there is you're saying that other people won't value your time and won't pay for it. That's just all in your head. Because if you are as good a contractor as you should be, people will value your time. It's just that you need to value your own time first so that you can convince others of that fact.
Yeah, that's a great example of a limiting belief. We've helped hundreds of people end the practice of free estimates. And I remember receiving an email from somebody who said, "Yeah, but I just can't see this working." And my response was, "Well, you're probably right. If you can't see it working, if you don't believe it will work, you're right, because you'll never try, and it won't work for you if you never try. And the only reason is because he believes it won't work." And I think there are lots of beliefs. So let's talk about this. How do we apply this to our team, right? For people who are listening or business owners, limiting beliefs and fears are a big part of the problem. And if we want people to embrace change and grow, we need to help them, or maybe the best way to help them change and grow is to help them identify their fears and their limiting beliefs. So how do you think somebody can go about doing that with their team? What do you think, Monish?
I think it starts with yourself first, right? Obviously, you've got to go through and address what your own limiting beliefs are, but then it's about recognizing where these beliefs are in common with your team as well, and then giving them the opportunity to try something different. And quite often, it could also be the case where you've got one or two team members that do want to do that, and it's the rest of the team, including yourself, that's holding them back. And it's about just going, "All right, you've got an idea. Let's run with it, and let's see what happens." And then we'll find out what happens and make, change our course if we need to. What you don't want to do is when someone comes up with an idea that hasn't been tried and tested before, at the very least, going, "Oh, I don't think we should do that because I think this is what's going to happen. This might be the end result of it. So let's not do that," and staying away from it. Because you're right off the bat discouraging your team from coming up with, ideas for improvement and doing things better in your business.
Yeah. It's good advice. Leyah, what about you? How can a business owner or a leader help coach their team members through their fears and to overcome limiting beliefs? What do you think?
Just a basic coaching tactic is asking a lot of questions. As a coach, a mentor, a boss, a leader, whatever the case may be, many times you have the answer already. But there's something really powerful about guiding someone to find that answer themselves. versus you just telling them the answer. It doesn't have the same impact. And all of us have experienced this. When we realize something or we learn something on our own, it's way more impactful than someone just telling us the answer or telling us the truth of something, right? And that's something I think is really powerful. For any of us, we all have the opportunity to coach people. We all have the opportunity to lead. And that is one of the best ways to do it. Take a step back, take a breath, ask a lot of questions. Ask questions that will guide them to find the response and the answer themselves. And that's entirely more impactful. And folks will embrace that even more, especially if they have these aha moments, especially when it comes to shifting their mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much more effective to ask questions. One thing I learned was the higher the ratio of questions to statements in my conversations, the more effective they were. And if I could have a conversation with somebody on my team or a client where all I did was ask questions, if it was 100% questions, that would be the most effective. The fewer statements I made, the better. And that took me a long time to figure out. And I see this with some of our clients. They want to tell people, like, this is what's in it for you, and this is why you should do this, and this is why this is such a great idea. And if you do that, you're missing an opportunity. You want to ask people. And the principle that I like to follow is people take action when they hear themselves say why they want to. And the only way for you to facilitate that conversation is to ask a question. And the more questions you ask, the better. So great advice. One other strategy, one other underrated or lesser known tactic for coaching that I found is what I used to do and what I see a lot of people doing is when there's a problem, they go straight into solutions. Like, well, this is what we should do. We should go right into tactics and coming up with solutions. But what I found is more effective is to start by clearly defining the vision for when this is fixed. And I heard something recently. A guy was learning from a chess master. And the chess master said, all right, the first thing you do when you're playing, when you feel stuck, is look at the chessboard and envision the pieces where you want them to be, where you want them to end up. And then you work backwards from there. Because when we have clarity on what the end result is, then we can start working through solutions. So if you're dealing with some challenge, some problem, don't go straight into solutions. Go all the way out to the end. What does winning look like? What's the desired end result? What does a home run look like? What's the vision? So whether that's solving an issue with a client, solving an issue with a customer, strategic planning for your business for the next 5 years, start with the end in mind and then work backwards from there. I find that works a lot better. Okay. Last question for you guys. Monish, you're up first. How do you tailor your coaching strategies to fit the unique needs of each client? And then how might, and when people are listening to this, if you're listening, I hope you take away how you can tailor your coaching to fit the unique needs of the people on your team or your clients or whomever you're influencing. But how do you do that, Monish?
Well, I should probably start by saying, so I coach our clients that are part of the CEO Alliance, which is at a minimum 12-month program. And the reason that's relevant is it allows me to create, deeper, longer connections with people. And I genuinely like all our clients and I kind of see them as friends, right? And there's a lot of respect I have for our clients. And as we go through and uncover the layers and I get to know them better, I get to find how each person thinks, what makes them tick and what makes them, uncomfortable or demotivated as well. And I think part of that is, enhancing that relationship to the point where we both are able to still have that mutual respect, but I'm able to guide them in the right direction as they personally need. When it comes to employees or clients or anyone, I think it's probably just that approach where at the end of the day, it's just another person, right? Regardless of the dynamic of your relationship, and you just treat them as you would any other person. And I treat my clients exactly the way I treat my family and my friends, and that's just how I think of them as well. And it allows me to let them get close to me, to let me get close to them, and what we spoke about before, the fears and vulnerability and things like that, we're able to actually unlock those things at that level. If I try and stay at an arm's length, I'll find that it's usually harder to break through someone. And of course, there's always, moments of inside jokes, like when we have our live events, going to karaoke or going for dinner and drinks with our clients. Like, it's all very enjoyable. So it's part of actually helping people break through is getting to, know them better and getting a bit more personal at a certain level.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the mistakes I made for the first 5 or 10 years of my career was underestimating the value of relationships. I was an arm's length guy. Like, you don't fraternize with your employees. You don't get too close. You don't get too personal. You have to maintain some distance. Same thing with clients. And I think it's a lot more enjoyable and it's a lot more effective when you're transparent, when you're vulnerable, and there is no line between you and your clients, between you and your customers, when you're friends. And when you have that relationship, it just works a lot better. It can be a little scary for some, those of us who are robotic like myself. But once you try it, it works a lot better.
I should say there though, like, it's usually when you take that approach, you end up saying no to people that you're not going to get along with, which isn't a bad thing. Like with my construction business, Michelle and I had this rule of thumb where we'd only say yes to clients who we thought would make great dinner date people. And so it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're just saying yes to clients that you actually just want to hang out with to begin with, people that you actually want to get into a relationship with. And then you happen to do some work with them as well. And, to an extent, I take that approach here as well. I tend to want to work with people that I know I'm going to have a good time with. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's a good filter. It's like, do I want to spend time with this person? And that's what we say when we invite people to the CEO Alliance. Like, is this somebody we want to sit down and have dinner with in San Diego or Naples, Florida? Is somebody we want to spend time with? We have a finite amount of time. Do we want to spend several hours a month with this person? And if the answer is no, we don't, then that's probably a good filter. And I think that works for employees, for clients, subcontractors, vendors. Life's too short to work with assholes. Yeah. That should probably be a t-shirt.
Exactly.
Life's too short to work with assholes. Yeah.
If you don't want to break bread with someone, probably shouldn't be working with them.
Probably not.
Big red flag.
Leyah, how about you? How do you tailor your coaching strategies to fit the unique needs of the folks you work with?
So similar to Monish, I really like to build a relationship with people, but my runway is a little bit shorter. So I'm coaching folks through an 8-week program versus 12 months that Monish gets to spend with them. And so, I got to kind of dive in there deep pretty quick and get to know people. But what I have found is when people know and can sense that I genuinely care about them and their results, they will engage with me in a very different way. Not everybody wants that, and that's okay. I'm okay with the folks that don't necessarily want that. But for those who do, we have a great relationship, even if it's just for those 8 weeks. And typically beyond, I'll have some of those folks continue to loop back and reach out to me. And a lot of them become members of our CEO Alliance, which is awesome to continue to see their results just with the company overall. But people want to know that you care, and they want to know that you are genuinely invested in them. And that has really helped me to be able to guide folks and to coach them in a much more impactful way, I guess, versus just kind of the surface stuff, right? Because our program is awesome. It's going to help anybody. But what makes the difference, I think, is when I can have a personal connection with one of these clients and can really see how this is making an impact, not just in their business, but in their day-to-day life. And I get just as invested as they are in wanting to see those results. And so that's been something for me. I really like people. I enjoy getting to know people. And, I'm by nature, I'm a pretty empathetic and compassionate person. So that tends to display for other people. And that's just worked really well for me. And it is very rewarding for me to get to see the results from folks that I've built those relationships with as well.
Yeah, I think it's a cool thing that, we're all construction people. So it's like when it comes to the construction leading edge, I love that all my clients are builders. Like it's my people. It's when I go to a social event, we end up just talking to people that, gravitate towards construction. I don't really have casual conversations with CPAs or whatever, because there's not a lot of common ground there. And doing this with people, it's usually the extracurricular activities or hobbies. There's a lot of common ground there too. So, just similar personalities, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the consistent bits of feedback that I see is that, like, our clients, they know, like, Leyah really cares and she gets it and she goes the extra mile. And Monish really cares and he is invested in my business. And that's one of the strategic decisions we made, is we're only going to work with a small group of people because the relationship is that important. Maybe if we diluted that and we eliminated the one-on-one interaction, maybe we could help more people. But that was a strategic decision that we made, is we're not going to do that. We're going to interact with people. We're going to have relationships. And yeah, I love our clients. I love when we get together. Some of my favorite memories from the last few years have been at our live meetups, where we get these people together and they love being around each other, and they're our people. And it's so incredibly rewarding to be part of that. And a big part of that is because you guys genuinely care, and they feel it, and they see the results from that. So it's, Leyah, you're the resident empath. I don't want to speak for you, Monish, but I am not an empath. That's not my nature. So I joke with my kids that I'm an empath. And they think that's hilarious because I'm not. But yeah, you definitely bring a lot to the table, empathetically speaking. So I appreciate that. All right. Well, let's bring this thing home. So what I'm hearing us say is, if you want to coach your team, if you are a leader, first of all, part of your job is to coach people and to grow people. And you have the opportunity, not necessarily the obligation, but you have the opportunity to impact people's lives and help them grow. And what I heard us say was, you need to customize your approach. You need to have relationships with the people you are leading. You should help them identify their fears and limiting beliefs. Part of your job is to push them just beyond the boundary of their comfort zone. You should make bets with them involving karaoke and risk of public shame if you really want to take their growth to the next level. And you should ask lots of questions. So I think that's some great advice for coaching folks. Any last bits of advice? If somebody said, hey, I want to coach my team, what's something I can do to be a more effective leader, more effective coach for my team? Anything else you would add to that list? Leyah, what do you think?
Oh, I have this belief that it's called leadership of one. And I think it always starts with us. And I know Monish has mentioned this a couple of times as well. But there is something really powerful about being very honest and self-reflective of yourself. And this is not meant to like put yourself down and be really upset with yourself in any way. But there is a level of honesty that we need to have with ourselves and say, okay, am I the most empathetic leader? Am I the most, do I hold people accountable? Those are both forms of empathy and love and in leadership. But sometimes we have to look at ourselves and see what we need to change first so that we can become better leaders for those around us. And people will always follow you based on what you're doing, not on what you're saying. So that's just an important thing, I think, for all folks who want to be great leaders and who want to always continually be growing, is have that self-reflection and then have the courage to make changes if necessary.
Great advice. Monish, how about you?
So I would recommend finding out what is it that your team personally wants to achieve, as individuals. What do they personally want in the short, medium, long term? Because like you were saying before, one of the fears when it comes to employing people is that, hey, this person might potentially go and start their own business one day. And instead of that being an irrational fear, just find out from the person what is it that they want. And they might tell you that, honestly, one day I do want to start my own business. And instead of seeing that as a threat, there's a lot of opportunity in that, because if someone is very motivated to start their own business, they're going to be quite a critical member of your team, because they themselves are looking to improve and learn and absorb and all that sort of stuff. And, if you've set up an environment where this person is basically getting everything that they could potentially get out of owning their own business, empathetically, there may not be any reason for them to leave. Because a lot of people will say they want to start their own business because they don't want to work for someone else, right? Which is a negative reason to start your own business. And once they do start their own business, they find out that it's a lot more complicated than what you thought. So having that conversation and saying, one of the guys that worked for me, I said to him, I'll help you start your own business eventually when it comes to that. And I'm happy to help you get to that point. And part of that was me exposing what I do as the CEO and him realizing he doesn't want to do that. It's not his personality, which was a mutually beneficial thing. And however, he appreciated that I gave him the opportunity to evaluate that himself, instead of me being super secretive and, holding my cards close to my chest and not giving an opportunity to grow and to succeed and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. Great advice. Yep. Love it. All right. Great stuff. Leyah, Monish, thanks for all the hard work that you put into it. Thanks for caring so much about our clients and building relationships with them and helping them get the results that they're getting. So, and for sharing some of your insider secrets today. It's been great. Hey, Todd here. Before you go, thanks for listening. If you get value out of this podcast, if you could leave a rating or a review on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you consume this content, that would be great. And then if you are tired of waking up in the middle of the night, thinking about project details, worrying about cash flow, if you're tired of being stuck in day-to-day operations, putting out fires, if you're tired of not having enough documented processes and systems in your business, if you're tired of being hammered by the just enough to start trap and you feel stuck, if you want to grow your business and you want to know the right process to do it, if you want to have a roadmap to follow and a proven system for that, then there's a 5-step process to systematize your construction business. And the team here at Construction Leading Edge specializes in that. That's exactly what we do. And we've helped over 300 companies do just that. If you would like our help, if you'd like to talk about what that looks like, the first step is to go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or you can go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and tap the Apply Now button, or you can simply send a text with the word apply to this number, 877-755-2410. Just send a text with the word apply to 877-755-2410, and my team will get back in touch with you. Thanks for listening. See you next time.